if we could all just have a minute's silence for the departed Agent Gio. Yay!
The seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, indeed. It is the Monday Club. I know there's no Celtic playing right now, but you know what? There's always a little surprise, a little twist in the tail that you never expect in Scottish football, Jonathan. And they tend to be going our way these days. Well, I don't actually know. Maybe it's not went our way. Agent Gio, though, absolute round of applause to him because he did a wonderful job, Jonathan. He came in with a 6-point lead. I think it was maybe even 7 at one point. He managed to lose the league by 4 that year. He gave them the great hope of a Europa League, and then it was stolen away from them. And he's managed to get them 9 points behind after 15 games so far. Well, we take the credit for that. Agent Gio, your work is now done. Over to the next agent in line. Wonder who it will be. I want to talk to David Martindale, Jonathan, coming in to steady the ship. You know, I know people say don't take the piss and all that, but if you can't take the piss right now, then when can you? It's called football rivalry. It's a bit of banter. You know, we were going through absolute turmoil 2 years ago, and you know, deserved anyone taking the piss out of us from the other side. So it's only fun, Jonathan, when it's and it's only right. That's what I meant to say. It's only right when these situations happen. We kind of marvel at the madness that unfolds. Just when they thought they had it all sus, Jonathan, they thought they had us where they wanted us. It's completely flipped. And of course, the argument will be that the same thing could happen all, you know, the other way around, and 9 points could be turned around. Well, no. You know, I think, you know, as I say, when it's been a slower week for Celtic and you get popcorn news like this, of course we're going to have a bit of fun with it. Anyway, it is the Monday Club. Obviously, we're going to do all that good stuff before we get started. So if you've not hit that like button yet, get it smashed. 50. Oh, geez, so I hate when it's always 55 folk watching live.
That's a nasty number.
That number's been getting wheeled out some amount today, by the way. Oh, honestly, every pundit's managed to wheel out 55 getting men. Honestly, so many times today. It's like they're all, I don't know if there's like a rule, like they've got to mention it, any ex-Rangers player, but anyway, or Rangers manager, whatever, everyone has mentioned 55 from Souness to Boy to Kenny Miller. I'm like, what is it with this? Anyway, there is 57 watching live right now. So if you keep hitting that like button, more people will be able to fit on the bus. It's a big bus we've got. There's plenty of room for everyone. Obviously, keep the comment section open. I can see it's already busy. So yes, no, we'd like that for the talking points. We need all the talking points we can get over the next 4 weeks. Let's be honest. As for subscribing, if you've not hit that subscribe button yet, what are you doing? It's free. Hit that button. And if you want notifications, hit the bell as well, like the other 3,050 odd of you have. We must be doing something right. And if you want to become a Boyce's Bus member, like so many of you have as well, that helps keep the bus on the road, and we'll always be getting pumped back in for, you know, trying to push other wee ventures that the bus has got. Obviously, coming up, Jonathan, G4 Studios will be in there. We'll get a couple of podcasts knocked out there in a professional surrounding, Jonathan. It'll be like, you know, looks like we've made it. Look how far we've come, my baby. That's what it'll be like. Are you coming along to that, Jonathan? You're on the team sheet.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll be there. I'll be dusting out the old microphone for that one. Looking forward to it. Should be quite a good one. Just to go back on the weekend, you know, as one journey begins in Qatar, another journey closer to home in Glasgow comes to a sad ending. And our thoughts and prayers are with you over at Broncos at this difficult time, because, you know, as much as Celtic were a juggernaut last season, he was an integral part of our success in the league. And I think all of us on this podcast would like to offer him a massive thank you for his services. And we look forward to welcoming whoever is next at Ibrox dugout.
Yes, Jonathan, I like it. Your openings are getting better and better on a Monday, mate. I'm telling you, I love it. Your face just sort of changes, and I know something good's going to come out of that mouth of yours. It's brilliant, Patter. And the thing is with this, I mean, Ange will be sitting there right now listening to Queen's Greatest Hits, Jonathan. Another one bites the dust. I don't know why I was singing tonight. But he will, I mean, obviously, I don't quite see it as he's seen off too, but undeniably, there is a bit of turmoil over there, Jonathan. Now, this is the thing. We speak about, obviously, we feel that, you know, when you've got a prized asset in your manager, you want them tied down on long-term deals. They might be worried about how long-term a deal Gio was on and how many staff he was brought in, because they're going to need to pay them off. If they want to get a manager, like has been rumoured, I can see his name flying about in the comments already. Mickey Beale, as he's now getting called. Sure, it used to be Michael Beale. It's now Mickey Beale, you know, second best pal and all that. Now Mickey, you know. If they want him, they're going to need to pay top dollar because he turned down Wolves already, and I'm sure he's on a decent contract at QPR. The Championship tend to pay good money, and it all then means what's then going to be left once you've paid off Gio, paid off another club to get a manager? What's then left to play with if you qualify for the Champions League? There wasn't a dink to spend, Jonathan. These are the concerns that the other side have. Whilst we've got a Celtic side that just collected, you know, we reckon a rumoured $6 million, something like that, to play a couple of meaningless friendlies in Australia in front of 40,000 people. I think that competition just got some money off Rangers, or have got a bill on their way to Ibrox as well for pulling out late. It just feels like, you know, everything's just tipped. Everywhere they turn, there's a closing door, Jonathan, right now. And it's great fun. I mean, I remember I had a conversation, you know Mark very well, Jonathan, we grew up next door. Great boy, but he's staunch, right? He is total staunch. And I remember a text conversation, well, text argument, really. But it was like debate, man, you could say. And I had said to him a couple of years ago, look, my honest feeling is there will be seasons where you'll win the league. The odd season. You'll get the odd league season. And since 2000, that's kind of been the case. I mean, under Walter, they got that three in a row. I mean, you take that away, they've won 2 out, you know, the other 17 or something. You know, it's like, I know they weren't in the league, but that was only because they were trying to keep up before. You know what I mean? So I just feel that right now, the thing is, Celtic's foundations are built on such a solid grounding. And whilst I bitch and moan all the time about the lack of spending, what it does mean is we've got an advantage over our rivals that they just, even when they reach a European final, even when they qualify for the Champions League, to have got them to that stage, to have won that one league title, they had to take out crazy amount of loans that they've had to pay back now. And they had to fall out with kit manufacturers that they've had to pay back and now pull out the tournaments. And they'll always have 10,000 less seats than us. You know, they'll always have that. And I just feel right now they've got no assets at all. No assets at all. on the field. Their two biggest ones are about to leave on a free. The likelihood of them getting through the very tricky playoff rounds in the Champions League qualifiers next summer are 50-50 at best, I think. You know, they must just feel right now that everywhere they turn, as I say, a door is slammed shut on them. Jonathan, right now, though, we're sitting in a situation where Ange has already told us, January, completed it, mate. I've already got that sorted. I'm ready for that. And you guys, i.e. us, better get ready for it as well, because some of your heroes might depart. But wait till you see what I've got in my sleeve coming in. We reckon the Kobayashi deal's already done. Another J-League gem from Big Ange. We think Juranovic might be on his way out for maximum value, Jonathan. And then let's all be excited at the potential replacement Ange finds to bring in. We think he could be looking at another striker as well. Who knows? So, yes, it's all very exciting at our end, and it almost feels a wee bit, doom and gloom the other side of the city. I know Bob McBob's in the chat. He's putting a brave face on things right now, and I like that, Bob. He's being feisty. But let's be honest. I think we need to accept right now. I'm not going to call it the banter years are quite back yet, Jonathan, but by God, are they doing a good job of trying to get back to those that wonderful time. They are doing their damnness, Jonathan, to get us back to the years of banter.
It's like a throwback to the banter years, really, at the moment, isn't it? It's like they instead of picking up an album, calling it the banter years, they kind of just played one of the singles for now. Whether it's back for a brand new album, a new release, I'm not entirely sure yet, but certainly looks like it could potentially be, because they look like a club in complete and utter disarray. There's talk of Michael Beale being linked with that job. There's no danger Michael Beale will end up back there knocking back rules. I think pretty much rules him out of taking on the Rangers gig. He'll know that there isn't much money to spend there, and it's pretty much not going to do his career any favours. It'll be very interesting to see who they get in. However, I think from a Celtic point of view, you're looking at it now, and I don't think Ange Postecoglou really cares what happens at Ibrox, to be honest. I think he's got his own plans, and as you say, he's already completed January, and that was without knowing whether Gio was still going to be in or out of the building at Ibrox. And I think that shows as a club, perhaps, certainly at management level anyway, the focus is purely on ourselves, which it needs to be in terms of improving what we have there, because this could quite easily be one of those moments, and we've seen it in the past, where Celtic take their foot off the gas because they might think Rangers are falling back slightly and they don't want to push too far ahead for whatever reason they have for doing that. But I think Ange Postecoglou is probably about a side to Celtic where it's no, whatever's going on over the neighbour's fence, we'll take care of our own business. Whoever they bring in, whatever Dafty comes in, I'll see him off too in time. And
that though, Jonathan. See, just on that, before even the show goes any further, I want it to be known that's Ange's mantra, right? But I don't get paid to be the manager, so I'm absolutely always looking over the fence, Jonathan, if it can be a point and laugh exercise, right? I like the fact that Ange doesn't look at it. That's his gift, because that's his job and all that. I don't get paid to be that professional, in my opinion, on it. So if I get a chance to peek over the neighbour's wall and the place is, I don't know, falling apart, I will have that tip. I'll absolutely be checking over that fence every 2 minutes, mate. I like Ange's attitude towards it, but absolutely not. Does that mean we're all duty bound as fans to be the same? We can peek over, look over anytime we want. I mean, it's a wee bit of banter, or a time where there can be a wee bit of fun poke, then I don't see anything wrong with us, Jonathan, having a wee look over the fence at our neighbours. And you're absolutely right, though. From Ange's point of view, of course he won't do the same. Of course he won't do the same, because he's too professional. If I was getting paid the same amount of money as Ange Postecoglou each week, my outlook might be a wee bit more mature as well, Jonathan. But we don't need to be. We're on the bus. We're having a laugh. We're 9 points clear at the top of the league. They don't have a manager. They've just recorded the worst Champions League campaign in history. And I don't know where they go from here. I think that's pretty funny. I'm looking.
Yeah, I mean, I think as fans, we're all having a good look and a good laugh. And let's make no mistake about it. If the shoe was on the other foot, they'd be doing the exact same thing. So it's all a bit of to and fro in Glasgow when it comes to these sort of moments. But yeah, you're looking at them, and The only thing that was a bit surprising was he held on as long as he did after the break had already begun. So I wonder if that was maybe something to do with trying to work out where the finances were going to come to release him from his contract, which again will be interesting if we are peeking over the garden fence to see exactly what their financial situation is, and perhaps we'll get a better inclination of that when they appoint their new manager, and depending on whether or not they go for somebody that's currently employed by a football club and how much they're going to have to fork out as well to actually potentially get a new manager in, as well as the money they've had to pay out to get Gio out. So there is a lot of that going on that we'll no doubt see the financial repercussions of over the next few weeks. But from a Celtic point of view, it's exactly what we wanted. I mean, Ange Postecoglou, going back a year, he was the one that was supposed to be out last Christmas. And now we're looking at a situation where not only has Steven Gerrard, the man who stopped the 10 and was seen as a god up Ibrox way, departed when he realised, I think, Celtic were getting their shit together and he didn't want to be on the receiving end of a couple of beatings, because I think that was what was going to happen. I think Gerrard's smart. I think Gerrard got himself out at a good time and he was savvy about that. And you know, and then you look at Van Bronckhorst comes in, he's in a brilliant position to go on and win that league, you know, in terms of what inherited league winners. You know, they were still in Europa League. We're going to have a fantastic run at that. And Celtic still found a way to just win them over and just get the 3 points week in, week out, and get that league championship won and completely reverse the whole thing. And I think that has to speak volumes for Ange Postecoglou, because, you know, if we were to say a year ago, even one of the managers will be gone, even when Gio Van Bronckhorst came in, you would have probably said it's probably somewhere likely to be Postecoglou. I think a lot of the media certainly would be doing in that camp anyway. But Ange Postecoglou has proven how good a manager he is. I think from a Celtic fan's point of view, I mean, you're looking at the candidates potentially across the city, Russell. Is there any there that concerns you if they were to go for? Is there someone there that you think, oh, fuck, that could really give us a run for our money and give us a fright?
I mean, I just think right now, see the one thing, you know, just to flip it the other way and go, right, this is all, a lot of this is Celtic's doing as well. I think I seen a stat where Gerrard's average points or something at Rangers was like 2.38 and Gio's is 2.3, right? So there's nothing in it. What Van Bronckhorst went up against though was Ange went on a 39, I think it was, league game unbeaten run. He's also this season 14 from 15 games he's won. So it's easy to fall behind against either of those sort of records. I know both those records slightly actually overlap as well. The 39 game actually goes into that, you know, the opening 15 of the season. But when you look at those sort of stats, Jonathan, you go, fucking hell. You know, he's been up against an absolute machine. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, right now, when you consider that, who would fancy going up against Ange and Celtic right now, knowing, and I'll keep going back to this point, right? I've said it before, boardrooms and people at boardroom level across the UK talk, right? They're private convos, Jonathan. They'll all be acutely aware of the disparity between Celtic and Rangers, right? I know the Daily Record and things like that got a wee bit giddy, Jonathan, about, you know, the 6 million profit they apparently posted, but it wasn't that. It was £900,000 they were slightly made a loss. Even still, obviously that can improve. But you look at Celtics, it's 30 million cash surplus, 9 points clear at top of the league with that guaranteed group stage football again as the prize for winning the league this year. You're going into something where you need to be tooled up to take on Ange's Celtic, or you need to have a contact list as strong from an affordable league as what Postecoglou has. Maybe that's where the Muscat links are coming from, you know? Is that not Ange's apprentice? Is that not his assistant manager somewhere as well? I just think from that point of view, we've got to be honest here and go, if you're, a lot of managers come to Scotland to salvage reputations or to rebuild it. I think Brendan Rodgers came for two reasons. I think he wanted the Celtic job. I think it was the right timing for him as well, though I think he was acutely aware of his own career as well. But I do think there was an emotional sort of attachment to getting that job as well. But remember, he knew what he was going into. He was going into a gunfight knowing he had a couple of pistols in his pocket. Now, if you're going in, what was it Mark Kearney said on the Sunday Blether yesterday? Going into a sword fight with a scooshy gun. That kind of would be what it's like. unless Rangers are going to go back to the well and borrow off shareholders and start that whole process again. That's what they would need to do. Now, if you're going there to rebuild your reputation, you would need to have those assurances rubber stamped, right? Because there's no way you can go in with those two squads and put up a good case to overhaul that 9-point gap this season. So your first season, you're going to have played the majority of the league games because there's 23 still to go, and you're going to finish, the likelihood is, second. That already is a label that sticks, right? If you finish second. And it won't really be your doing. So what promises would need to be made to the likes of a Sean Dyche? I think Bob suggesting that, and obviously it's all about a banter, Bob, and I know you can take it, mate. So, but with the likes of Dyche, I think that would be an appointment. I can see why they'd be excited by that. But he's coming from a position of pretty decent stock in the English Premier League. Is he going to break into the top 6 or anything? Absolutely not. No. But could he get another EPL job? I think he'd be on the short lists. I definitely do. If not, it'd be very much higher up on a list of top championship clubs, championship clubs going for promotion. So the risk for him coming up to Scotland would be, but I'm going to finish second. They're going to get another 35 million. What are you giving me to compete with that? Because all I can see here is a lose-lose situation. My reputation ain't going to get enhanced. It's only going to worsen. And if you fail in Scotland, of course, as much as your successes can be viewed as successes in a backwater, if you fail in Scotland, back down south, if that's where you see your long-term future, well, that gets frowned upon. So right now, that is going to be the very, very difficult situation they're in. I totally understand the attraction of bringing a Mickey, as he's now known, Mickey Beale, up to Rangers, or bringing Sean Dyche. But you need to tool these guys up. These guys are too aware, Jonathan, of their own reputations, their own CVs, and what the implications of that can be. And they'll all know that the financial stranglehold Celtic have over the rivals has been evident. It led to them going bust. Fact. Because Celtic were just in a dominant position. And the reason they went bust is when we were at our peak, they had to find other means to try and compete with us. Right? That is as simple as that. And Celtic beat Celtic at that point by silly appointments like Mowbray, keeping Strachan an extra year, things like that. But then what's happened is, to get themselves back into the top flight, well, we were having a laugh about they spent 500 grand on a bus. A bus of all things. And then when they were in the league, they were having to borrow. And of course, they got the league title. They stopped the 10. And, they call it 55. That's absolutely fine. That is absolutely fine. But undeniably now that they're, Celtic's kind of pulled away again, how are they going to keep up with that? It's not about Phil Gobbledygook, Bob. Listen to the facts I'm telling you. Celtic's got 30 million cash surplus. You don't. Celtic's 9 points clear for a prize of 35 million pounds again at the end of this season. Celtic have assets all over the park with serious valuations. Again, you don't. Now, you may have money in the bank, but that won't last long when you pay off Gio. You pay off if it's QPR for a Mickey Beale, or if it's another manager that's employment. You need to then give them a transfer kitty. That money will evaporate, Bob. I'm living in the real world here. Not reading fantasy blogs and things like that. It's not really my style. I think we have to remember that, and also remember UEFA. I think this is what Kaiser's alluding to. UEFA have them under this mad microscope thing. Remember, they were listed in the clubs, so they can't just be flagrantly spending out with their means anyway. And I think that may have played a part in why Gio never got anything before the transfer deadline closed, even though he'd qualified them for the Champions League. It's difficult to attract top managers, Jonathan, when it's as lopsided as this, don't you think?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think they're really going to be struggling. I'll be interested to see who they actually end up with. I don't think it'll be Michael Beale. I don't think it'll be Sean Dyche. I think they'll end up having to make a left field appointment similar to what we did with Ange Postecoglou, and try and find somebody who knows their way around some sort of footballing market that can unearth some gems. Because you make a very good point. Celtic have a very strong squad with plenty of assets in it. Rangers, on the flip side of that, are going to have to do a lot of squad building in terms of bringing in players, because they're at the end of a cycle with their team. There are a lot of the players that they've had there have been there for years and years, and they're desperately needing a lot more fresh bodies that can make an impact in the league, and that is going to take time. And the one thing you don't get in Glasgow, and we said it last year when Ange got given the Celtic job, is you don't get a lot of time.
No.
You know, if Ange Postecoglou hadn't won the league last season, he'd have been on a very sugary peg. For me, even if he won a cup, I think Celtic fans would have been questioning that, and he would have been under quite a bit of pressure going into this season. And I think that's just the nature of the beast of managing one of the two clubs in Glasgow. So from a Rangers point of view, it's a catch-22. I don't know if they've maybe taken their time in terms of making the decision to get rid of Van Bronckhorst to actually source who they think they could get in as a manager, and then trying to crunch the numbers, because you're right, there's a lot of work for them to do. Their season is pretty much all hinging, for them to have any chance. They're going to have to beat us at Ibrox, in January. For me, they would have to win that game. They have to get the point difference as it is, and that won't be easy. I know Celtic have a difficult run in when we do come back. We go to Bustalgia in the first game. We've also got Easter Road, I believe, before we go to Ibrox in the New Year's game. If that point difference is still 9, then that's a must-win for Rangers, and that instantly puts a lot of pressure on whoever ends up coming in there as manager. And you've got to bear in mind, they'll have to do it with the same squad that Giovanni Van Bronckhorst has left them, because they won't have had time to bring in any new players when that game, I think, is on the 2nd of January. So from a Celtic point of view, it's looking very, very rosy. I'm very, very confident we're going to win this championship anyway, even if we were to lose at Ibrox. From a Rangers point of view, whoever goes into there, Russell, has to be looking at that and thinking, holy fuck, best I can really do here is try and win a cup this season is most likely what they've got to try and do. And that's what Van Bronckhorst did last year. He won the Scottish Cup, and guess what? It still didn't really buy him much time. He got to a European final last season. Unheard of. We always bang on about us wanting Celtic to do better in Europe. He gets into a European final, sacked a few months later. So there is arguments there to be made that Van Bronckhorst could feel a little bit hard done by to be given the sack, given what he did manage last season. And I think, from a Celtic point of view, if we'd got a manager who'd got us to a European final, perhaps there might have been a bit more patience given to him the following season to try and turn things around. Bear in mind there wasn't a lot of transfer activity. I don't think at Ibrox either. I think they could have perhaps done a bit more for Van Bronckhorst there too. So, from a Celtic point of view, I think it's all foot on the gas. We'll continue to keep ploughing on. From a Rangers point of view, it's, catch us if you can.
Well, here's the thing. I think there's two sides to what Celtic do. Now, let's start looking at this from a Celtic prism. And I know Mark's got quite strong opinions on it. I kind of agree with him on the majority of it. And I know you've touched on it tonight that, one of the things we need to be very, very, very wary of is if the powers that be at Celtic feel, or in the past have felt, that the gap has got to a sufficient level between us and Rangers that, they're in the distance, we're in the distance, they're just in the rear view mirror, etc. We take our foot off the gas at that point. Now, very interestingly, my concern would be, obviously, that's happened in the past, but I just feel we've had a couple of watershed moments. I'm going to give you, I spoke about this yesterday, and it's quite poignant because we always kept money safeguarded, Jonathan, because we were concerned about if the worst came to the worst, a rainy day, etc. But that rainy day came with COVID, Jonathan, right? Undeniably, that came, and look how we've came out it. It's never going to be worse. The finances at Celtic won't take as big a hit as that again in our lifetime, right? Let's be clear.
No.
So once that's now happened, I think even for a board notoriously tight, I think it would give you that confidence that what you've got in front of you is sustainable and you maybe can be a bit bolder. Even if your rivals are falling a wee bit further behind at this moment in time, rather than in the past, that mean we put a wee bit of a break on what we're doing. I think this time around it'll be different. The other factor in that, of course, is the manager, because he's not joined to be better than Rangers. And I've said this a million times. It's not me trying to prove myself right all the time. It's just going back to reference points that we've made. I always believe that Ange took this job for what he could do, ironically, as you just talked about there, in Europe. And I think that's what he does. Obviously, he knows you need to be better than Rangers to get into the Premier European competition. But I think he'll be gauging his success, his success when he looks back at his Celtic era, based on how he does in Europe. The only way to do that is for us to continue on the trajectory that we currently are and on the pathway and follow Ange's vision for that. Do you think there is still a concern that because this is happening, we might feel that we're going to, maybe just start taking it easy and start going, well, look, Ange, we've backed you to the tune of 38 million. You can hear Celtic board saying that, even though we know they brought in more players. But you could hear them saying stuff like that, right? And going, oof, that was the big spend. Now it's just, you've only got this to play with. Or do you think now it's, look, COVID's now been done. We've all now got a new perspective. Like, the worst of the worst has happened. We came out still with the club, very, very sound financially. We've got the right manager in place. We're back at European's top table. We're back as the Premier club in the country again after that wee one-off season where we finished second. And now it's time to start, really starting to grow Celtic as a brand, regardless of what's happening over that neighbour's fence that we might, the fans might point and laugh at every now and then. But if Celtic take Ange's advice and take no notice over what's happening, with the neighbours, then we should carry on exactly as we were. But obviously there is evidence, Jonathan, there is undeniably examples where in the past, moments like this have happened and Celtic have kind of slowed their own progress down.
Yeah, and that is obviously a major concern. I think the big difference between some of those examples, certainly in more recent times, and the example we have just now, and the reason why I think the board will continue to back Ange Postecoglou is because there is no gamble on Champions League qualifiers next summer if you win the league title. And I think previously when they've looked at those games, rather than looking at them and thinking, that's a great opportunity, win these games and we get into the Champions League, they kind of looked at it almost in a typical Scottish mentality and went to bed. I think they kind of looked at those games and thought, I'm not confident we're going to get through them. And I don't want to be throwing lots of money on that and then us losing. They tend to take the negative mindset. There's two ways to approach those sort of games. You either go into them thinking, yes, we're going to win this and we're going to back the manager, or you can look and think, holy fuck, this could be a bit of a slog and I'm not wanting to throw money at this and trying to think of the worst case possible scenarios that could happen. That you could throw tens of millions of pounds and then still end up getting knocked out by a Cluj or whatever. And I think that's where the board's conservatism comes into play. I think when they're looking at it now, though, because of the fact they know Celtic are stronger than Rangers, as a club, as a whole at the moment, there's no two ways about it. If Celtic go about their business correctly, they'll win the league as far as I'm concerned, particularly given the advantage they have in terms of points this season. And, when you've got yourself into a position like that and for winning the league, you're guaranteed that Champions League income, I think the board can then afford to be a bit more relaxed, that giving Ange Postecoglou the money he wants to end up enhancing the squad. And it might just be a case that this could be a blessing in disguise for us, the fact that we now all of a sudden have this Champions League income guaranteed for winning the league, in the sense that we can now actually afford to continue to try and progress the club a bit more, because of the fact we're not playing these qualifiers. And then previously it'd be a case, even if we qualified, you're running about in the last week of the window, then trying to get deals done. And players tend to go for quite often inflated fees because they know clubs are desperate at that point in the window. And so that, I think looking at it from that point of view, what we have seen over the last year and a half with Ange Postecoglou is that, outside the first summer where he came in late, certainly last January, he got his business done early. I think in the summer he got.
I think January. I think January has been his best window.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say, last January. I mean, he's pretty much done on day one in January. It was as simple as that. Even before day one, we just didn't find out about all of it until day one of the January transfer window.
Day before, the 31st of December, the triple signing, and then a week later, was it Matt O'Reilly was announced?
Yeah, a week or two later, it was.
I think that was a window, though. I think the second summer window wasn't as good as January.
No, it took a wee bit longer in the summer, and perhaps that was just a case of trying to negotiate things and players wanting to see what other options are available to them. Summer notoriously is a busier window than January. So perhaps that was part of the reason why the likes of, a Jota and Carter Vickers perhaps took slightly longer to get over the line. And then obviously there was later additions, and Haksabanovic, I know is your favourite, Aaron Moy, obviously coming in later on, as well. Looking forward to watching him in the World Cup, I'm sure, later.
Oh, yes.
Tomorrow night, I think they play France, so that'll be interesting to see how Aaron Moy fares against the likes of a Paul Pogba in there. Russell sure will be just fine, won't he?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I'm sure he'll be showing Paul Pogba, running rings around him, playing the Pirlo role for Australia. But I think transfer windows, I think Postecoglou by and large has done far more good than bad in them. The joking of Moy aside, and I think Celtic continue to back him. I think Postecoglou's preference, as I'm sure every manager's preference is, but Postecoglou has actioned it as well, is actually getting the business done as early as possible. And Postecoglou is probably really the first time I can really remember a manager, if we're referring to last January's transfer window, that had all the business done so early on, because he gets the 3 Japanese lads, and then he obviously gets O'Reilly a week or two later. It was obviously Riley McGree, I think, was the other one we were looking at from Middlesbrough at the time as well, and that looked
He joined Middlesbrough. He joined Middlesbrough.
That's right. Sorry,
he
went to Middlesbrough.
He put him in their green away kit or something, didn't they?
That's right.
Did they have a green and white away kit, and they made some sort of jibe? I wonder how he feels about that now, smart arsey.
Yeah, it must be. That makes him look a wee bit silly. Now, let's be honest. But the fact of the matter was, the targets were all identified, and they, even when he didn't get the one he wanted in midfield, he quickly moved and got O'Reilly instead, and it's probably worked out better for us and Matt O'Reilly as well, getting the move up here. So I think from that point of view, Russell, can you remember a time where Celtic have been this well planned out in a transfer window, where a manager has managed to grab the scruff of the neck this much, and they've had the deals all done, either in January or in the summer, that quickly, and it's almost as if it's all been planned, months in advance?
Well, no, I think the reason for this, Jonathan, is that Ange has got the board kind of in a vice in a weird way, because firstly, when he came in, he was obviously the second choice, right? We all know Eddie Howe was the first choice. That's life. But by being second choice, it meant by the time we'd found out the Howe deal had fell apart, and by the time we could actually get Ange over from Japan, he had a short period of time to do the biggest rebuild Celtic had done in probably over a decade in their first team in one window. Celtic also at that point, whilst having told us for months they were looking at a model with director of football going forward, and they were going to bring Eddie Howe and his merry men. I think it was it 17 staff, or was it 20 something staff that he was going to bring in total?
Crazy numbers,
the Celtic were open to it. Ange got himself. I've always said, I think deep down, Big Ange isn't daft. I think he thought, this fucking works for me. It looks like they're really giving me a shitty card here, but the reality is, it means I get the final say on anything, and these bastards are desperate. The club's on its knees. So I feel, whilst my suspicions about Ange, well, it's not suspicion, it's a I think a kudos to him, to be honest with you, if he enjoys, just doing it all himself. But I think the optics of it are, that's a pretty harsh card to have dealt him. And I think he's put himself in a situation now where the credit Ange has in the bank is massive. I think he's now got to a point going, look what I've brought you in. Even if Celtic view trophies as, being won on spreadsheets, Ange has delivered there as well, because the revenue of the club, because they got the Champions League access again. The fact he's signing players, he's got assets on the park now worth 15 to 20 million, I would say, in a Rio Hatate he's brought in for £1.5 million. Juranovic is going to be, well, probably 100 million, Jonathan, according to some on Twitter. But I think, if we're being honest, even a Juranovic at 2.6 million, we've got an asset on the park there that's 4 times that, probably more likely. And that, again, that ticks the boxes that, certainly the previous regime would have been looking for. So that's why you'll see different organisation right now. But I was talking with Mark about this, and the Bus will be the only podcast highlighting it right now, because they'll all be shitting themselves. Peter Lawwell was chased effectively out of Celtic, even though he was already leaving. There was no big thank you for him. It's not how he wanted to leave. He wanted to ride out into the sunset, mate. You know what I mean? Or after 10 in a row. That was why he was leaving. And Peter Lawwell's undeniably got a massive ego, a huge ego. And 18 months later, we've just had an AGM. Even though we've got a departing chairman, no announcement on who the new chairman will be. Now, if that's going to be a new appointment, Jonathan, the AGM would have been when you would have called it. That points towards there is, I think, a strong chance that Mr. Lawwell comes back. Mark's convinced it's a certainty. I don't know if it's a certainty, but I think all roads point there right now. And if it isn't him, then fair enough. But I think there's very, very good reason to believe that, you know, based on how Celtic are operating, right? Why is it all quiet? It would be Lawwell coming back. And the biggest worry for that would be, you know, then us reverting to type and that upsetting the apple cart right now. At the end of the day, Brendan Rodgers has brought us success on both the spreadsheets and on the park, Jonathan. And eventually Peter Lawwell didn't like not being top dog and started playing funny buggers, you know, with some of the signings. And I think right now, if Lawwell's to be announced, then that would be the only thing that could stop these windows being as organised as what they currently are. Right now, you're looking at very much, I think the last 3 windows have very much been a Postecoglou production. That's what I think. And the Celtic board, the first window, they've obviously just brought him in a couple of players. And I don't think because he says, I don't want them. I think when they've suggested, look, Joe Hart might be available, James McCarthy might be available, and there's a boy, Liam Scales. I think Ange just went, well, I need fucking bodies, so that's fine. And I know who 2 of them are, and the other one's costing very little of my budget anyway, so cool. That's fine. And then the rest of them, because they were all sort of, Ange was like, look, we're going to sign a Japanese striker. I want Maeda. I want Kyogo. I think he got Kyogo. Obviously, he got Kyogo the first window, but he wanted Maeda that window as well. But then the board just had to sort of bow to what he wanted. And because of the success that then brought, that then sets a tone. And I think so far we've seen that in the windows that it's been more Ange-led. Albeit, I do still find the summer window a wee bit confusing as to what happened. And I do have a couple of concerns with it, if I'm honest to you. That first team wasn't strengthened where, you know, I think me and Mark did a pod at the end of it, we called it the transfer night forum instead of the Thursday night forum. And, you know, the talk was, you know, are we bigger? Are we better? Are we stronger? That's what Ange was sort of said in his final speech, wasn't it? You know, to close out on Trophy Day. And you look at the first team and we didn't really strengthen it, apart from Haksabanovic. But he plays in an area where we probably had decent depth already. That would be the one thing I would caveat all with. That would be the only sort of doubt I would have is, you know, how come we didn't strengthen that first team quite the same way we did the first 2 windows? The first window we had to through default. The January one was being said on a positive note. The Kobayashi arrival that seems to be the worst kept secret in football on a free. That's an Ange Postecoglou production, Jonathan. I'm happy with that. But again, he's a free transfer. That would suit even if there was a Peter Lawwell there as well. One thing I want to be clear on is I think sometimes I get misconstrued when I talk about fees, like I'm obsessed with Celtic spending money for spending money's sake. That's not the point. What I do feel, though, is if you say to any manager continuously, go to the well and find me a gem at £1 million to £2 million that can win us league titles, be worth 20 million within 12 months and compete at Champions League, I think that's an unfair battle. I think they should constantly get rewarded with a better level of player to initially be able to go for and then turn them into a gem as opposed to always having to go, do you know what I mean, to that lowest possible bracket. And I hope that we're going to see tangible progress on that window upon window, Jonathan. And like I say, not because I'm fucking, we need to sign a £10 million player. That's not my point. My point is, I just think it's unfair, it's unrealistic that we'll always be able to get Ange to wave a magic wand and sign guys at that small bracket. But a player, I suppose, is only worth what, you know, a manager views them as. And this is the next important bit. if Ange thinks a player is worth £2 million but can improve our first team, the board will nod their head. But on the same token, Jonathan, if Ange sees a player at £10 million, will the board still nod their head then? Because the player's only worth what the manager views a player as. And for me, they've got to start playing ball with him. And it's not because a £10 million player for £10 million sake. That's not my take on it. I just hope that there has been a loosening now of the purse strings, credit and confidence enough in Ange's recruitment that if he thinks a player's worth that, then trust his judgment the same way you would trust his judgment going for a lower bracket player. Make his life a bit easier. And also I think as well, any manager's still got that same trait that they want to feel like, yous are buying into what I'm doing here and I'm seeing ambition levels going up and up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think there's a good example when, we sold Tierney and then we replaced him with Greg Taylor, who, in fairness, has actually been one of our best players this season, but Greg Taylor took a long time to come onto a game. And let's face it, it's still not near the same levels of quality as Tierney. Now, that's not to say we would have been able to replace Tierney. I fully appreciate how good a player he was, but certainly the bar was set there for us to have gone and spent a bit more money to try to get somebody as close as we possibly could.
You're replacing a top 6 EPL left back, Jonathan, with Kilmarnock's left back. Right, correct. So let's just take the fees out of it. Let's take the fees out of it. So it doesn't sound like we're focusing on that then. If your player is now in the top 6 of the EPL, the one that's gone, and you're replacing them with Kilmarnock's, is that fair on the manager? I don't think so.
No, and I think the interesting thing is, we're looking at January now, and certainly the talk seems to be that Juranovic might be the one that heads out the door, which I think will happen in January. And, hopefully that'll be for good money. That will then probably determine to me whether or not the board are willing to back Ange Postecoglou, because I would imagine if he's wanting to replace Juranovic with a better standard of right back, then he's going to have to be backed financially to do that. And, buying one at 2 to 3 million will probably raise my eyebrows if that's what ends up happening. And we get another player that we've never perhaps heard of coming in, that Ange Postecoglou scouted, and we're taking a punt. Whereas, if he is allowed a bit more of the purse strings, let's just say we get, 15 million for Juranovic, I hope we do. And, he wants £8-9 million to buy, the right back that he thinks can improve the squad and is even better than Juranovic was, then I think that needs to happen. And I think we'll get a much more of an indication as to how much the board are willing to back Ange Postecoglou when one of his key assets goes. And as I say, because that's all pointing towards being Juranovic in January, then he's going to need to buy a right back to replace Juranovic. And I think that could be a key moment for us in terms of deciding where this board's going to end up. Another interesting point is, he's saying that he's pretty much done all his business in January. There is a World Cup going on at the moment, Russell, and I would be very surprised if Ange Postecoglou doesn't have his scouts out there looking. So whilst he might be saying that he's done most of his preparations, there could still be the possibility that somebody could catch his eye over the next couple of weeks if they fall within our budget. Particularly the groups are going on, and there's plenty of countries in there that will have players that Celtic could afford. If somebody in there catches his eye, then again, that could end up leading to him having more conversations with the board. And we all know what happens after a World Cup. If somebody plays well, prices go up. And it'll be interesting there again if we end up getting linked with players coming out of the World Cup. And they're substantial links. I'm not just talking about something that the Sun's just put together for the sake of it. Will the Celtic board then be willing to back him, given the fact that the market value of that player may well have risen quite substantially if they've put together a good World Cup run? And I guess the other point, Russell, is whilst we're saying, January is, fairly much set in stone as to what Postecoglou's looking to do, could you see the World Cup over the next couple of weeks potentially changing or moving the goalpost slightly, and Ange Postecoglou may look to buy somebody, based on performances that perhaps he wasn't looking at?
Well, I think Ange is someone who says things very understated, right? When he talks, he doesn't change his tone. He doesn't get over animated. He never seems up. He never seems down. But I think always look beyond the sort of way he says things and look deeply into what he actually is saying, what and why he's saying it. So I think when he says things, for example, Jonathan, like, the planning for January is already done. I'm kind of looking ahead to the summer 2023 already. I also think sometimes stuff like that are warning shots to the powers that be, that, what he might be saying there is, I handed my list of targets in months ago or weeks ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as far as I'm led to believe, they'll be out there running about getting those contracts and those negotiations, and potentially Roosters, right? The fees and all that, whatever it may be. If Ange takes nothing to do with that, fair enough, Rooster. I've seen your comment come up. That's cool. But if he's given them a list of players and he's done it organised and he's not hired any word back that it's, any's falling apart, any deal's falling apart, then that's maybe why he's saying that. He's maybe saying it as that you boys better have been on that since I gave you that list, by the way. I think sometimes he chooses these words. He chooses the words very, very cleverly. And I think he might be saying his work's done. And what he's saying is he assumes at that point that those guys meant to be working with him and on the same page as him. He is just presuming, that they're already got it all in hand. But I think deep down he's also, there's that wee proverbial nudge. Remember, he said very famously, and he's, I think within his first month, perhaps I haven't been vocal enough in expressing my urgency to bring players in, something like that. I'm paraphrasing a bit, but he was basically saying, perhaps I've not got the message across here to these boys. We need to ramp it up a wee bit here. So, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens in January. I think January, I spoke about watershed moments before. I think January is a real eye opener for us because it could coincide with the announcement of Peter Lawwell, for example, as chairman. And I do think that undoubtedly we'll know by the end of January how much influence Peter Lawwell's having. Roosters coming back in again. He said it's Lawwell's team that identifies and recommends signings. Well, that would be impressive, Rooster. If we're talking about 3 windows here, and Matt Lawwell's only been there for 1. And if that is the case, I would say, the summer window there's probably been the poorest at the 3. So I would also, I don't know, each to their own, Rooster. If you think that's the whole process, Ange said at a press conference a couple of weeks ago, Ange plays everything down. There's no way Kobayashi and all that is getting put towards Ange. Like, come on.
No, I think we know if they're coming from the J League, it's absolutely an Ange Postecoglou production. I don't think anyone could believe it's coming from anywhere else. I
think, again, as I say, look into what Ange is saying. He's absolving himself of responsibility for the ones that haven't worked. Like Abelgard. Come on, this is psychology, Rooster, we're talking about here, big boy. It's not as, I think not everything's a science or really like as structured as what you're saying. When players are coming from the league that Ange managed in and we'd never signed a player directly from that league before, do the math. And the other 2 windows, there was no Mark Lawwell there anyway. But Jonathan, we've actually been prattling on for a while now, 53 minutes in. Timo Weah scored, I believe, tonight. I don't know if he's got 1 or 2 goals. I've seen Siamese boy was coming in there. Obviously I think that's, people keep calling him Neil Lennon on Twitter. I'm positive it must be Lennon's agent. But just to be, I think he was absolutely, I think he was spot on though, Siamese boy today. I think it was one of the more prominent Celtic pods, not a personal thing, by the way. I like a lot of the stuff they put out. But they'd said, Lennon chased him out of Lennox Town. That's not quite what happened. Jonathan Timo Weah had the decision to make and he chose his international hook up with that squad over the Scottish Cup final was my memory. So I don't think it's fair always to keep battering Lennon like for no reason either. Timo Weah scores at a World Cup. Let's bash Lennon. I think that side of the support is, if folk give me, pelters for slagging off Aaron Moy, fucking hell. Imagine if he achieved, 1/1,000th of what Neil Lennon did in the Celtic jersey. Yeah, when Timo Weah scores at World Cup, let's have a pop at Neil Lennon. Don't agree with that, Jonathan, do we?
No, and I think, going back to why would Lennon not want Timo Weah to have been part of that Scottish Cup final? He'd been in pretty good form from memory in the loan spell he did have with us. Got a pretty important goal at St Johnstone, I'm pretty sure, in the run-in that season.
He did.
Timo Weah was quite an important part of the jigsaw for Lenny that year, and I'm pretty sure he'd have been more than happy to have had him as a part of the plans for the Scottish Cup final. But Timo Weah obviously wanted to represent his country. He was only on loan with us. There was no option to buy him. There was no obligation for the club to hold on to him. whilst that international game was coming up. So it was one of those ones where I think Timo had decided he wanted to go and play for his country, and we weren't going to stand in his way there. We couldn't stand in his way, and it didn't end up making a difference because we won the cup without him anyway. But touching on Timo Wales, a well-taken goal. I actually did see the game. It was very well taken from him. Not very many ex-Celtic players, Russell, are actually playing in this tournament. Certainly not as many as I remember growing up. I seem to always remember there was a lot more when I was growing up that were either with us or, had an affinity with us somewhere along the line. I mean,
I'm sure Albi Jonathan got into the team of the tournament or something, like the 2002 World Cup. Or one of the teams of the tournaments. There was. He was.
Maybe the Euros, maybe.
Yeah, one of the two. I'm sure he got into a team of the tournament, or he was on the bench for it or something like that. Do you know what I mean? I'm positive, man. Stuff like that. I mean, Larsson scored, 3 and 4 at the 2002 World Cup. He was doing dragovers past Toldo at Euro 2000. He was scoring diving headers. Like, he flew through the air against Bulgaria. And that's just Henrik. I mean, we would have other representatives like Petrov and all that at these tournaments as well. It was great, eh?
Yeah, it was. It was good back then when you were looking back at it and you could remember, looking out for the games where your players were actually playing. Whereas now it almost feels a little bit more reduced. Maybe I'm just getting older and becoming more grumpy, but I can't find it as exciting as I did when I was younger.
I forgot it started.
Yeah, I think the way this World Cup's been handled as well has put a lot of people off with it being completely in the middle of the footballing calendar. Season and the politics as well that goes around it, which I'm not going to touch upon. But I think if you're looking at it this year, I think we've got Carter Vickers, who was on the bench tonight. He didn't feature for America. We obviously have Juranovic, which is good, keeps him fresh for us, which is fine and dandy. I'm sure Mark Kearney was doing cartwheels when he's seen that lineup, knowing how much he likes to keep the Celtic players well looked after and looked after and cotton wool. So he'll be pleased with that one. Obviously got Juranovic possibly to play for Croatia, but we don't have very, very many that are actually now going. And even if you're looking at players that have previously played for us, even there's not an awful lot of them. Also got Van Dijk at Netherlands, and then you've obviously had Timo Wales going tonight. But
I like seeing the Excelts there. I do like seeing the Excelts there.
Do you support any of them? Was it? I know obviously we all had an association with Sweden back in the early noughties for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. Is there any country really that you kind of feel you've had an attraction towards since Larsson, retired? Has there been any other Celtic player that you've followed and kind of thought, I really want them to do well in a World Cup or European Championship?
No. But we went on a family holiday to Sweden in the mid-90s growing up, so I'd got a Sweden top then, so I always liked them anyway. And then Henrik's attachment with them, and the Albies, of course, was class. And then even Lustig was playing for them, but I'll be honest, my real draw to Sweden after that was Zlatan. I just thought, he was just such a maverick. I loved him. And Larsson, by the way, was playing for Sweden till he was Euro 2008, he was 36 and a half when he was at his last... international tournament at that age. Do you know what I mean? Approaching 37. But I would always have been Sweden for me, to be honest with you. This year, I can honestly say I don't care.
No, I'm kind of the same.
I'll just do the James English thing now. Nobody cares, mate. But generally, I don't care.
It's more of a frustrating tournament. This will be right in the way of the Celtic footballing calendar. I'm going, this is a fucking pain in the arse more than actually enjoying it. Usually, I quite enjoy the World Cup when it's in the summer. I think that's quite a good time to be having it. You kind of get that anticipation, the build up at the end of the season. You end up getting really pumped up for it. Beer gardens, bit of sun. It's all quite good. This time's just a bit shit, isn't it? Just a bit shit.
It's a bit shit, but it's that time, George. You're talking about being a bit shit. It's time to bring on Phil McGinley. Hey!
Hello. Hi, guys. Evening, everyone in the chat.
Evening,
How's
Phil.
everybody doing?
Phil McGinley, how about you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, mate. Not too bad at all. Just listening to you talk about the World Cup there, so I feel kind of awkward coming around saying I've quite enjoyed watching the football today. I thought the Wales and USA game was pretty good, to be fair. Quite enjoyed it. Back and forth at the end. The Holland and Senegal game let me down a bit. I expected better for the two teams. But no, the Wales and USA game was quite enjoyable. So not too bad. Aye, all good.
Fair enough, mate. But It's just that time, Phil. You know, when you appear, it's time for the palms to get sweaty, Jonathan. You know, better turn those comments off.
Yep,
I've got my comments turned off.
Comments off, indeed.
Comments are off. Hands are in the air.
New background. We've got a quiz background. We're done. Banners. Hide. There we go. We've got the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire studio with the Boyce'S bus logo in the middle of it. So that's the first. Every week I'm adding a new layer onto this, you know. So that's the new layer this week.
We'll actually have a studio by the end of this, and Phil will be like Chris Barrett sitting
Now, hold on a second.
us.
We're doing a show in a studio very, very soon. So who knows? Maybe we could. Oh, fuck.
If we've got 2 hours in there, we could do a pod for an hour. We'll do a half-hour bus stop, which will be the most explosive interview since Cristiano Ronaldo and Piers Morgan, Jonathan. And we'll do, we'll try and just squeeze in a wee Sutton Death as well. We'll have some fun. We've got 2 hours. We could probably squeeze in a Sutton Death in that time, Jonathan, couldn't we? Yeah,
we could. We could a Sutton Death in the studio where I thrive under the spotlight. That's why I'm not winning. These are just warm-ups, really.
Warm-ups. Is that what it is? Because you're getting beat out. I'm fucking hell.
Warm-ups.
Yes, it is time, folks, for Sutton Death, the quiz show of a Monday night. You know, this is defining Monday nights now. It's sweeping the nation. This is the one that everyone comes to see. So, of course, the current score is 4-2 to Russell. Last week, wow, what a game. 9-8 ended to Russell on the night. To use an NFL analogy, it was 3rd and long, and Jonathan threw a Hail Mary with Baku as a guess, and my God, he was right on that one, but just wasn't enough in the end, and Russell just got the win in the end and held him at arm's length at 4-2. So yes, of course, to recap the rules for people who have never seen it before, it's basically a penalty shootout. The boys here have 5 shots each. Obviously, I'm the goalkeeper. I've got a list of answers here, correct answers. They give me a correct one, they score. They give me an incorrect one, they miss. It's that simple. Now, address a wee bit of controversy from last week as well. We need to get that out of the way. Because obviously I talked about adding layers every week. Now, last week, obviously, I put some music in the background. Oh, yeah. Still some teething problems with that because YouTube is a bit of a prick when it comes to...
Cost me a penny, you bastard, Phil.
Oh, I know, man. All the wrong reasons, mate. All the wrong reasons. But I did see in the chat last week or in the comments after it, regular viewer Charles Sweeney said, What about a heartbeat in the background?
Oh, that's good. And that's not copyright. You've all got one of them. Surely that gets through censors.
Yeah, a heartbeat. That's true.
Yeah, try and copyright that one. So I'm just sound now, so it's not dominant. It's there. You can tell it's there. An ominous heartbeat in the background. Until we can get some sort of music sorted out, and YouTube don't go, no, can't do that. Okay, tonight, guys. It's safe to say this is a question that you never saw coming. For all the revision you might have done this week, you probably didn't see this one coming at all. It's the swerve of all swerves, because tonight, guys, it's a bit topical. It's not a Celtic question. It's a World Cup question, because in case you didn't notice, there's a World Cup going on, guys. But you'll find it sounds like, oh God, it might be bad, but I'm quite confident we're going to have a similar performance to last week. I think it's going to be a lot of
Come on.
Here. Russell, you won last week. You're going first, yes?
I'll go first, yes.
Okay. There's 26 answers in this one, so there's loads and loads.
Come on.
Okay, so really, really simple. I've got a list here, guys, of players who have scored 5 or more goals at World Cups in this century. And this is cumulative. This isn't at single World Cups. So 2002, 2006, 10, 14, 18, and also the one that's going on just now. So you add up their goals. So it's only goals in the 2000s.
Since 2002.
Since 2002, yeah. So anyone scored in the 90s are not included in this list, but there are 26 players that have scored 5 or more.
So if someone had scored 3 in 98 and then another 3 in 2002, 2006, that wouldn't count.
Only the 3 goals count, correct.
So it's got to be over 5 though they've scored since 2002.
It's got to be 5 or more.
I'd be wrong. I'd be wrong.
World Cups,
okay. We'll start with the easy one. Miroslav Klose.
Of course, he is the top goal scorer with 16 goals. Every one of them was scored in this century.
I will also take one of the easy ones. I will go Ronaldo from Brazil.
Yeah, 11 goals for him in the 2000s. And Depends to Jono. Yep, one apiece.
I will go for the other Ronaldo, CR7. He has 7
Cristiano.
goals, I believe.
He does have 7 goals. Yes, he does. Aye, spot on, Russell.
I'll go Lionel Messi.
Yeah, Messi's on 6 goals.
I wasn't sure on him.
Oh, come on, Russell. Come on, you're better than that. Messi's 6.
I'm going to go for another German. I'm going to say Thomas Müller.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
Thomas Müller, 10 goals. He's actually never scored at a European Championship, but he's scored 10 goals at World Cups. Bizarre that.
That's wild.
That is wild. Never scored at the Euros, but scored at the World Cup.
World Cup. I'm going to go Karim Benzema.
Ooh, I don't think so.
Karim Benzema is a wrong answer, Jonathan. He's not on there.
Yeah. Dear, oh dear, really? Oh, that's bad.
I'm going to say Luis Suarez.
Luis Suarez, 7 goals. Yeah, Suarez indeed.
Oh, very good. Very good. Who else? Who else might have scored that many? I'm going to say David Villa.
David Villa is correct. 9 goals. He's scored, yes, indeed. I believe this would win it for Russell.
Yes,
because John.
I think
So. Okay, so Russell
I
win
will
it.
say Harry Kane.
Oh, that's good.
Harry Kane scored 6 goals at the 2018 World Cup. He
Yes!
start-padded against Panama, but it got him the goals. Harry Kane is indeed the correct answer. Didn't score today against Iran, funny enough. But yeah, Russell. Oh mate, that's you now. 5-2
5-4.
up in the season. 5-2.
5-4 on the 5-4 today, and then 5-2.
5-4 the show.
5-2 in the series. Aye. Oh,
Get in there. That was routine. I can't believe you got wrong so early, Jonathan. There was no even Sutton Death or nothing.
I wasn't expecting a World Cup question. I was thrown off my game. Game with World Cup.
But your game's been shite anyway. What are you talking about?
I was catching you up until Phil threw in geography and then the World Cup last couple of weeks. I want a proper Celtic question next week.
We'll get it back to Celtic questions, but I thought I would, seeing as the World Cup's going on, we may as well go for something topical. But I'll tell you the answers that were also on there. See, there's loads of big ones. This is one of these ones like shooting fish in a barrel at times. James Rodriguez, Neymar, Asamoah Gyan, Arjen Robben, Diego Forlan, Wesley Sneijder, Robin van Persie, Rivaldo, John Dahl Tomasson, 5 goals.
Oh, yes! John Dahl. We spoke about him in the bus.
Gonzalo Higuain, Landon Donovan, Tim Cahill, Mario Mandzukic, Romelu Lukaku, Ivan Perisic, Lucas Podolski, Edison Cavani, and freshly added to the list as of yesterday, Enner Valencia is on 5 goals. So there you go.
Very good.
That's your 26 players. I thought the ones that you've got as well. But yeah, in the series now, Russell, you are 5-2 up in the series.
5-2, Jonathan, mate.
Long
it's
way
looking ominous.
to go. Long way
it's
to
looking
go.
ominous, mate. It's looking ominous. I'll pull away now. Confidence is there now.
Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think we'll be back to Celtic questions next week, and we'll watch that gap just close right back.
Don't you tell Phil what to do with the questions, Jonathan. I see what you're doing there. I see that wee verbal nudge that you're giving Phil. If Phil keeps it on World Cup, whilst the season's closed, I mean, I'm all for it.
Well, for those who've seen it, Bustalgia's going back to some World Cup. I had to get back in the World Cup trivia mood again because I knew of the trivia question for Bustalgia. So I was like, right, need to get back in the mood here. So yeah, we World Cup one there. But lots of answers there. But Karim Benzema, he was suspended for like the French national team or something for some sort of mad controversy. So
yeah, he was.
Aye, but he's back now. Oh no, he's injured, didn't he? He's out of this World Cup.
He can't do this World Cup.
This one,
hell, man.
I was thinking because of his age, but you're right. That's why he was suspended for one of them because he should have been there. I was thinking France got to a World Cup final, but I don't think he played in it.
But he still made like 100 caps for France. I'm like, he wasn't even available for them for ages. But anyway, there was plenty of other answers there for you, Jonathan. You just chose not to go for them.
Well, that's true. That's true. My World Cup always leaves a bit to be desired, but we'll get there.
You're better than that. You're better than that.
Anyway, it'd be boring if I'd won them all, Russell. It'd have been boring to begin with.
It would have been, mate. It would have been, but
just making it more interesting for me, to be honest. It's just fun dangling the carrot in front of you, letting you get your wee hopes up
right?
before I swipe that carrot right in your face.
We will see, Jonathan. It won't be Gio out, it'll be Jono out next, let me assure you. But thank you very much for doing that, Phil. That wraps up the Monday Club. Thanks everyone in the comments. Way over 100 viewers the whole time. There'll be no breakfast bar, sadly, this week. I am going to the Blossoms tomorrow night in Glasgow. Got myself a wee hotel, staying over there tomorrow night. I'm going myself. So if anyone's going to the gig, give us a shout. I'll meet you for a beer. Cut a bit of gig myself. Everyone's going to think I've lost the plot. But we'll just leave the breakfast bar this week. It's fuck all to talk about anyway. We'll be doing the TNF though. Judgment Thursdays are back. You know, Mr. Kearney will be on there. We've got Friday night Bustalgia. Phil, what's coming up this week? What World Cup are we covering? I'll jump on. I'm good at the World Cup stuff.
Vuvuzela, mate. I'll need to get a Vuvuzela sound effect in the background when you do the whole show with that just buzzing away.
2010.
See, when I said you the highlights videos to recap it, you're going to have to endure that buzzing the entire time during all the highlights videos. Like, oh, no.
They banned them. This one, the Qataris banned them. Couldn't bring them into the stadium. It's the only thing they've got right in this whole tournament.
Probably is. That probably is the only thing. But no, 2010 World Cup, we'll be talking about that. A few good talking points there. Obviously, Spain. We talked about them at the Euro 2008 one. You and me, Russell, we got a wee bit of flack for some people in the comments because we weren't big fans of the old tiki-taka. A few people in the comments would go, what? Is it the best team that's ever been? We're like, nah, but 2010 is even more like drab to watch than the 2008 team. And we've got Luis Suarez punching the ball off the line. That was quite a moment in time, that one. So make the flash the Vuvuzela. Oh, Jesus. No.
We avoided that klaxon today.
And we will probably this Sunday. I'm just trying to think what I'm doing. I think I'm free this Sunday, so if Mad Kaiser's available, I might do a Funday Sunday with Kaiser this weekend. The big man, he did the sleep out just the other night, at Celtic Park. So fair play to Big Kaiser. He deserves an appearance on the bus with myself. So we might grab a couple of cans and do a wee Funday Sunday with Kaiser this weekend for the banter. It's been a while since I chewed the fat with him. So yeah, that could probably happen this Sunday just to keep the content levels up a wee bit. But apologies for no breakfast bar, but I'll be waking up in a hotel not knowing where I am. Probably push to bed. I'm only kidding, I don't pee the bed. Right, anyway, on that note, we will leave it there. Thank you very much to Phil McGinley, Jonathan Boyce, as always, 5-2. And Gio, thanks for the memories. Good night.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.